Okay, wine number three, a favorite, another favorite of mine. This is one that I've been drinking for a number of years. It is their cuvee from Opaillac, which is the winery, the Domaine d'Opaillac in Montpeyroux, and that is in the Languedoc-Roussillon region of France. There you go. There's a whole mouthful there. And let's see if I can get that ticker. There we go. Little name there scrolling across the bottom. This is imported by Kermit Lynch, and we've had at least a couple of Kermit Lynch wines, I think, and back last year. In fact, I think that Nebbiolo, the Longa Nebbiolo we had was a Kermit Lynch wine. Kermit Lynch really is importing. He's legendary, and look for articles on him online, if you will. I know the Times Magazine did a big story on him. The New Yorker's done stories on him. He wrote a book 30 plus years ago, Tales from the Wine Route, which is how he decided to go really through the French countryside and really source wines from small artisanal multi-generational family producers. And for those of you who've been getting the wines from me, you know that that's sort of my wheelhouse. I like small producers. I like family producers. I like people who are doing things kind of like old school, if you will, low intervention, old school. And Kermit Lynch probably single-handedly or close to single-handedly started that trend and has been doing so for a number of years. So fantastic importer. One of the things we've talked about, if you're not sure of a wine, you look at the back label, imported wines, and you'll see who the importer is. And I know enough of them to know that, even if I'm not familiar with the wine, I can see like Kermit Lynch. And I know that it's going to be a certain type of wine made to a certain standard, even a certain house style, if you will. So again, these are low intervention wines, but really well made, very traditional. And this is a blend. This is a Rhone blend. Excuse me. Well, it could be considered a Rhone blend, even though it's a Languedoc. The Languedoc or the Occitane is the region between Spain and the Rhone. I traveled there in 2017. So my little story is I really want to go to their tasting room. I was in these small villages there in that area. I was visiting some other wineries I had meetings with. It's a fascinating historical area. It's an area that's really been at the forefront of sustainable and environmentally sound practices for growing and making wine within a country that's really well known for that too. Right now, France being a leader in that, but the Languedoc probably is a region that's really jumped out at the forefront. Big Spanish influence there because again, it's the Occitane, it's Catalan, so it is Catalonian in some regards too. There are bullfights that go on in Colosseums that were built by the ancient Romans. You see a really strong Spanish influence there, and part of that Spanish influence are the grapes. Grapes that are native to Spain, grapes don't get stopped at borders, unlike people. So there's grapes that have migrated across what are now borders over the centuries, and this is a blend of Mourvedre, Syrah, Carignan, Grenache, and Cinsault. These are all grapes that are really found in the Rhone, in Provence, in the south of France. They make some of my favorite wines that we've had, whether they were single grape varieties like Grenache, or I think we've actually had a Carignan. We had Carignan Rosé. We've had Syrahs. We're going to revisit Syrah next month. But Mourvedre is even though it does sound French, but it is known in its native land as Monastrell. Carignan is Cariñena in Spain. Grenache, native to Spain, is Garnacha. Again, so these are grapes that have kind of migrated across and in many centuries and in many ways. So what's nice about this is a primarily Mourvedre and Syrah and Carignan. So this is going to be darker. It's going to be meatier. I like to think this wine is meatier. One of the reasons why I picked it is January 9th is International Cassoulet Day. And cassoulet is actually a dish that comes out of the Languedoc, and they call it the Castellet Triangle. 3 communities there near Carcassonne that all kind of stake claims to making Castellet. So when you think of this wine, think of like good hearty stews. Think of that. That Castellet is this gorgeous blend of meats and beans and it's saucy and it's rich and earthy and all. And this is a wine that kind of cuts through a lot of that too, based on not just the fact that it's got some heft. These are old vines that are low yielding that give a more intense flavor to the grape, but they're also aged for up to 20 months in old barrels. Again, not new barrels. You're not going to get that vanilla scent and taste from the barrels here. We'll just add some extra depth and richness to the wine too. So this is a nice Saturday night winter meal wine, if you will. A nice kind of hearty meat dish, or some kind of a stew, or something with that's with mushrooms and earthy. And I think I start pulling out the heavier grains. You pull out some lentils, or you pull out some farro or barley, in a stew or a soup and all. And that's this wine. Love it. And so 2017, traveling around the Languedoc, visiting and meeting with some wineries. And I said, wow, I'm in the village. I'm in Montpeyroux, and I'm going to go find Domaine. And it was mid to late September. And I go to their tasting room, and there's a sign on the door that says, sorry, we're closed because we all need to go work harvest. So I picked the wrong time of year to go to Domaine to visit them. Did get to see a lot of other people. Did go to some amazing restaurants right within that town. And my last little quick wine story is I went into a restaurant. I knew who the great local producers were, especially the ones that I couldn't really get here in the United States. I knew what the great years were. And there was one of their best local producers from one of their best years, a wine that was probably, I think, 15 years old at the time. And it was the U.S. equivalent of $45. So it was phenomenal wine. And at the end of the meal, the owner comes up to me and he says, pardon me, I hope you don't find this to be strange or offensive at all, but I'm curious, why did you pick that wine? And I did notice a lot of people around there, of course, were drinking wines by the glass. They're drinking white wines and lighter looking wines. And I said to him, well, that is one of your best producers locally, isn't it? And he says, yes. And I said, and this is one of the best years you've had, this century so far. And he said, yes, very much. I said, and your price really was remarkable. I couldn't touch a wine of that quality, of that age, in my country at that price. And he says, yes, you're right. And I said, thank you. Thanks for having a great list. And, it's a really beautiful part of the world to visit, and I hope to get back there. So that's it. That's wine 3. Enjoy them all.